Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining another Lead Squared webinar. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Always a pleasure to have you here. So I have two fabulous speakers with us to take us through the session. But before I get to it, let me just give you a very brief outline of what you'll hear from us today. And of course, a little intro about the speakers. So we are discussing data-driven lead management from chaos to clarity. So hopefully by the end of this session, you will have clarity on how to manage your leads better. Now, some of the things that we will cover today are we will talk about winning strategies. What all can you do to improve your lead management? You can talk. We'll also talk about lead prioritization, which is an absolute must when it comes to chaos to clarity rather. And we will talk about workflows and automations and how they can help manage your leads better. So I have two excellent speakers with us today. Catherine, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's your first time here and we'd love to hear from you more often. So Catherine here has she started her first business at the age of 22. So you can see lots to learn from her. She founded Money Savvy in 2016 to help people with their journey towards financial freedom. She also manages a marketing boutique. Yeah, since I'm from marketing, and helps companies with their marketing strategy and social media management. So, thank you so much, Catherine, for joining us. Looking forward to learning from you. I also have Chantel, as always. She is a seasoned sales leader. She is also the vice president of sales at Lead Squared and comes with over 15 years of experience. You can see there's a lot to learn. And she's here to drive revenue growth and customer success for large scale businesses across diverse industries. So thank you so much, Chantel, for joining us. She is also the moderator for the session today. Now, just before I hand it over to you, Chantel, quick note to the audience. I know y'all had already shared some questions, but feel free to keep them coming. If you want to say hi to the speakers here, do that. Leave any comments. We'd love to hear from you. We will be putting up polls from time to time. Please interact with that. We'd love to know what your views are on the questions we have. Okay, enough from me. Chantel, over to you.
Thank you, Shabani. I'm super excited for this webinar today, something that always gets me excited. And so for the audience, thank you so much for joining us for our last Africa edition webinar of 2023. I can't believe we're getting ready to wind this year up. Catherine, it is really great to have you with us today, and I really can't wait to get started. But before we do, I just wanted to mention to the audience that not only are Catherine and I both, sales and marketing people, but we are both also businesswomen. We have started businesses and gone through this journey. And so I just wanted to make it clear that the information and the messaging that we want to share with you today is not stuff that we've read in books, right? This is based on our own experience and successes in our own businesses. So, one thing that is really, really important, and many of you on this call will know, is that you can build products and they can, you can build products, but if you can't sell them, you can't find the leads, to sell your products to, you ain't going nowhere. So on that note, we're on the 28th of November now. So Kath, if we look back, and I know it's crazy when we round up the numbers, but if you look back over the hundreds of meetings you've had just in 2023, what would you say that the one thing is that companies keep asking you to help them with?
Well, that's really easy. Everybody wants more sales or more leads.
Yeah, it doesn't sound uncommon. And I'm sure that most people, in the audience today are familiar with with the term lead funnel. But I want to spend some time focusing on some areas of the lead funnel that are often overlooked. Yeah. And we've both seen this, and when it's overlooked, these are creating huge revenue leakages for businesses. So, just to hear from you first, Kath, what are some of the hot spots in the lead funnel that you help customers with?
So as a starting point, most businesses either have a steady flow of leads or they don't have enough leads. Unfortunately, when a company doesn't have enough leads, there's some work involved here, and 6 out of 10 companies just aren't prepared to do the work, or they don't know how to do the work. And then once you start generating leads, a lot has to happen in that process before you can decide whether it's a won or a lost sale. And there's big lead leakage and revenue leakage that happens at this stage of the funnel.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that I want to talk about today is generating leads, and specifically organically. You know, I know this is something that you also know a lot about, and it's worked for, you know, you time and time again. And, you know, for our audience, one of the reasons why I want to focus on the organic part when it comes to lead generation is that you will already know is that when you're using paid advertising, you know, there's a place for it all. But when you're using paid advertising, when you stop paying, the leads stop, right? So, Kath, how do you build an organic lead generation channel?
So if you're trying to build an inbound lead strategy so that leads are coming to you, obviously content is the most crucial thing that you're going to be able to give them. So you need to make sure that you're prioritizing this as one of your income generating habits in your to-do list as an entrepreneur, and make sure you're blocking out time in your calendar to create content, and not just content, Chantal, like it's easy to go onto Canva and to do a post, but creating value-added content to make sure that you're offering that customer real value and that you're trying to solve a real problem for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that content, I can't stress as well how critical it is. So, you know, from a content perspective as well, just to add on to what you were saying, is that, you know, you have all this content that you're building out and putting out into the universe, and, you know, it's just another way to multiply yourself, you know, out into that universe. And I hope you don't mind, but I actually want to just share a quick visual with you guys to land this with you. So I promise you, we are not doing any death by PowerPoint today. But what I want to do is just share this particular visual with you, and we're happy to share this across with you. But the first thing I want to, you know, kind of summarize what we've just spoken about is you're all familiar with a lead funnel, right? Now, if you take a look at whether you're doing paid or organic lead generation, both of them cost money. Okay, so whether it's paid advertising, you're spending money on ad spend. Whether it's organic, like Catherine was talking about, blocking out that time to create content, it's time and salaries, right? That content's got to be created. So let's just assume in this basic example that the cost to generate a lead in your business is 100 Rand. So now what happens is you go and generate 100 leads that enter top of your funnel. So basically, you've got a total cost of leads that you end up with here, right? Now, the next thing is that let's be generous and assume that 5% of your leads convert. So, you know, all of you are running different businesses, providing different or selling different products, providing different services, and you would know what the average order value is in your business. So that would then give you the sales revenue that you've earned off your 5% conversion. But here's the thing, and this is what we want to make sure you understand today. What about the 95 leads that don't convert, right? Now, let's just make provision to take the 40% of junk leads. You know, those people that think you sell puppies when you're selling computers, as an example. So let's say that 40% of those 95 leads are junk. You're still left with 57 leads. Now, in our world, and this is built how Catherine and I have built success in our businesses, is that for us, this is the golden channel, right? 57 leads have not bought from us yet. Now, if you're in the B2B space, some of you may be asking questions like, well, how many follow-ups does it take? In our experience, we can tell you anywhere between 5 and 12 outreaches before, you know, you close a sale in the B2B space. If you're working in the B2C space, on the other hand, it may just because somebody wasn't ready now, or that product wasn't relevant to them right now. if you think about it logically, how many times do you see something for funeral cover, and you don't think it's relevant for you now? 2 months down the line, you lose somebody in your family who doesn't have funeral cover. You left to pick up that bill, right? And now it becomes relevant to you. So really important for you just to get into a point where you don't neglect this golden channel. All right. So I hope I've stopped sharing my screen.
Yeah.
So, Kath, I mean, just in terms of this golden channel we're speaking about, I mean, we speak about this regularly, but I mean, how amazing is it? You've got content, that real estate we spoke about, but I mean, you must have examples where, I don't know, you've sent or shared some content with somebody a few years ago, and now something's come about of it, 2 or 3 years later. Does that happen?
It actually just happened, Chantal. Funny that you mentioned that. So I got contacted by a really big financial organization a couple of years ago, and Money Stabby was still kind of new in that environment. And I dropped this customer into my database, and literally about 4 months ago, he came back to me and he said, listen, I'm ready to buy. But it took him 4 years to believe and for me to build that trust, to have the faith that he thought that I could actually deliver on the job that I was going to deliver on. And I'd completely forgotten about this guy. He'd totally fallen off my radar. But because he was in my database, I managed to convert him 4 years later.
Yeah, incredible. I've experienced exactly the same. And what a great feeling when it happens.
Yeah.
So, look, we're not going to have time to delve into marketing strategy today, but I mean, you guys are welcome to reach out to Catherine, separately for that. But as a basic framework, when you create content, we spoke about that earlier, you need to have a hook, a core, and a close. Now, Catherine, what pointers can you give our audience, on this?
So firstly, making sure you understand who you're selling to, because if you have multiple target markets like I do in my business, you're going to have different hooks for each single target market. And then each market that you work in, you can't just have one hook. You have to have a couple of different hooks and cores and closes and then mix them up. So generally, when we're running a campaign, we're not just going to hammer one message. We're going to set up 3 to 6 different messages and push them all out at the same time on the various platforms and see what lands. Because there's a lot of testing sometimes that needs to happen. And you've got to get that content right mix as well.
Yeah. And so when you're creating your content, I mean, what are some of the ways that you use to create these or deliver or take these hooks, cores, and closes, to your audience?
So I would say that probably email and landing pages are probably our biggest conversions at the moment in terms of lead generation. So making sure that we have a good mix of landing pages and that there's varied landing pages, because sometimes we need to have different messages on those just to make sure that we can close those clients.
Yeah.
And then our marketing and then the automation as well is like super important. So once that lead has landed on the landing page and they've downloaded that document, then making sure that they go into some kind of automation funnel so that we can keep that communication going.
Yeah. And when it comes to, so now you've got all your hooks and your cores and your closes. So, I mean, you talk about automations. So I'm assuming then you're doing your split testing, etc., in the automations you mentioned. So, yes. I mean, once you've then identified, because I mean, I don't know what, all the platforms that you're using, but certainly I can speak from a Lead Square perspective. I mean, Lead Square tells you, right, what this is the winning mix. So I think what's working well and continues to work well for you is that you've got this winning mix, but now you've ended up with this permanent real estate, on the internet, which helps bring people back to you years, post you creating the content.
If your content is good enough, you can use it for years. You shouldn't have to keep making new content. Just repurpose it.
Absolutely. And another thing that I want to just talk about, because most of the audience today, is going to have something along these lines, right? But when you start working with a customer, I know that one of the starting points, or one of the points that you cover with them, is understanding, what kind of existing customer database or database they have. So what has been your experience? I mean, do all your customers have databases? What does this look like?
So generally, when we take on a new customer, they're working on a number of different platforms. So they've got a mailing system, and they've got an automation system, and they've got their website, and they're collecting data in various places, but it's not in one place, and it's not in really good shape. And actually trying to manage those lists becomes a little bit of a job right up front. And that's something that we try and get right from the beginning.
Yeah, I always found that incredibly crazy. Look, I mean, I have owned a credit bureau, so I am a little bit obsessed with data because I know the value that comes out of it. But, the bottom line is that I think one of the key takeaways that I want to share with you, audience today, is that your database is an asset. And you really need to look after it and maintain it, like Catherine was saying. And again, going back to your golden channel, your database is part of that golden channel. And if you did nothing, after today, except start talking to your customers and your contacts in your database more, because most people just don't, right? Yeah. You will already see your sales going up. We've both seen it time and time again. And there's lots of research around this, but I've chosen the most, let's call it conservative number here. But businesses that talk to their customers, send emails and SMSs, to their customers, report back that they generate 30%, more revenue from this source alone. So, I mean, let me show you, to land this concept with you once again. Give me a moment. Right. So if you have a look at this particular image, if you imagine this being your database, right? And in the first column, you've got your customer names. Really simple, just for illustrative purposes. And the current revenue from our previous example, your average order size, 2,000 Rand. So you're getting revenue from 1, 2, 3, 4 customers, so 8,000 Rand a month, right? You've got somebody by the name of Thomas in your database, no revenue coming from this customer yet. But by talking to them and leveraging that database, by using simple tools like email, or SMS as an example, upsell revenue is something really important. So it gives you the opportunity to do business with people you haven't done business with before, and do more business with people that you're already doing business with. Now you already know, that your customer acquisition cost is much lower, to sell to an existing customer than to onboard a new customer. So use that asset to realize these results. And I'll tell you, in my business alone, 40% of my sales revenue comes from our existing customers. That is how big this channel is. Now, I also just want to leave you with these tips. Talk to your customers using the marketing automation tools, Catherine's talking about, to stay on, top of mind for these people in your database. Remember as well, don't make assumptions that people don't need what you are selling. Most of your customers don't even know what you can help them with. They may only know, the little bit that you're currently helping them with, but don't assume that. And if you don't talk to your customers and keep engaging with them, you are leaving money on the table when it comes to your upsell and, cross-sell revenue. So I hope this, sticks in your mind, but really, really important. Okay, so let's move on. Now, Catherine, if, we're sharing like a lot of concepts right now, but if a customer, if somebody wants you to send out an email or an SMS, to their database today, like, how do you practically do that? A lot of these webinars talk about the things you must do, but how do you do it? And what do you use to do it?
So we always use CRM systems. So in my marketing agency, we have clients who have a number of different CRM systems, but there is a little bit of a formula. So one, making sure that the database is solid, and making sure that we are always getting details in and growing that database is probably the most important thing that we do. It doesn't matter where you go these days. If you go to a car wash, they're asking for your details. If you're going to a clothing store, you're getting your receipt via WhatsApp, by SMS these days, and they're all collecting data. And the reason they're collecting this data is because they're trying to put you into some kind of funnel or profile you in some way so that they can better sell to you. So I think the biggest thing is make sure your database is solid. If you are building a mailer, make sure that your title headline is going to catch their attention and that there is some kind of added value and call to action in that email for that customer.
Yeah, it comes back to your hooks and your closes and your core, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, you mentioned something about, people collecting data and keeping the data organized. So, if I just take a look at your business, I mean, you've got, 6 or 8 brands?
8 products.
So 8 products, right? So I'm assuming you wouldn't just send the same emailer to everybody in the database, right? So that's why the ability to be able to filter and select what data you're going to use to deliver an SMS or email campaign, is that important in your world?
It's very important because the products that I have are a completely different target market. So the problem that I solve for every market is completely different. So every single product has its own automation strategy in our CRM system.
Yeah, that's so important, because what we see, and I think we've both seen this over and over again, for those of you in the audience who have gone, let's call it the quantity route, is that's usually where you get a negative response, after your email campaign or SMS campaign. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. And I personally prefer the quality game. I mean, to put it into perspective, if I'm selling a product that is going to cost somebody 20,000 Rand a month, just as an example, I want them to have a really good understanding of what it is I do before we actually even speak. You don't want to have 100 leads and 95 of them think you sell puppies, but you're actually selling, CRM. So this is why I also am a huge fan of landing pages, and not just because of, lead generation, but I personally use landing pages extensively to qualify my leads. So the more complex the solution, you would find that I would typically use a longer landing page form because I want to ask more and understand and unpack more. Whereas on let's call it an easier product or a cheaper product that's easier to understand, I'd probably go for a much shorter landing page form. So then, Kath, just looking back and using your experience, I think maybe just to give the audience some ideas or questions that they want to ask, but what key takeaways would you want to leave our audience with today?
So I think if you aren't using a lead management system or a CRM system, you're absolutely going to lose money and opportunities to upsell and cross-sell. Your lead conversion's never going to be good enough, so look at ways to improve it. This is something that you can't do manually, especially if you're trying to grow a real business or a big business. If you've got 10,000 contacts, it's not something that you can do by yourself. You have to have a system. If you're dependent on leads for your business, you can't do without a CRM, and everybody needs leads. And I think the biggest lesson, especially in my marketing agency that I see all the time, is people taking CRM systems because it's cheap. And we just encounter problem after problem after problem, and find a CRM system that's going to solve a problem for you rather than finding one that's the cheapest that you can find.
Yeah, and I think, I can also add on to all those points that you've mentioned, but often I will speak to people and they will say to me, but I don't need a CRM. I get all my leads from referrals. And the moment somebody says that to me, I get really worried because, relationships can end, something can change so quickly. So, if you are reliant on one source to generate your leads, that is major red flags. Once it's switched off, you don't have a business. I'm not trying to scare anybody away today, but that's a fact.
The problem is when the lead falls out of your mind and you stop physically following up, that lead becomes a dead lead if you don't have a system. Because this client that just came back after 4 years, it took me 4 years to prove myself. Sometimes you need that time because people aren't ready to buy. And if you don't have it, you're never going to have the leads convert.
Yeah. And I think the other thing you mentioned in your second point is that there's always room for improving your lead conversion. And we are operating in a tough economy, and I think take the ego out of it. And another message to leave with the audience is that your lead conversion rates are never good enough. There's always room to improve it. And I think just always be open to looking at avenues that can help you with that. Kat, those are like really such great points. And I just want to add to that is that I found it really and incredibly difficult, and I still do today. Believe it or not, I am quite shy. So creating video content, is not something that just comes naturally for me. I mean, I remember my first webinar, I was sweating bullets. I mean, it was horrific. I was really, really scared. But I forced myself to do it because I understand and I've seen the results. I mean, I meet people today, I don't know who they are, and they'll say, but I saw you on YouTube. So first of all, going back to what you said earlier, content is king, but what I've done with my content, although, despite how uncomfortable it's been for me, is that I try and use video as much as possible. And I use it on YouTube in particular. Now, I have found that YouTube has been really successful for me. It is the second most visited website, in the world after Google. And I mean, guess who owns YouTube? So it makes sense. Now, if you think about it like this, the top 50 websites in the world don't even get the traffic that Google, YouTube, and Facebook get combined. So they are monsters. I mean, leverage those tools out there. And posting videos on Facebook at the moment has also been great in terms of organic reach. And the reason for that, I mean, think about it logically. The demand for video on Facebook has gone up because the supply's gone down. Why? Because most people are publishing the video content on TikTok, Instagram. So use those opportunities, that are available for you today. And I think, from my side, I would just like to find out from the audience, and then we'll hand over to Shabani. But before we hand over to Shabani, it'd be really great if there's any key takeaways or anything that you guys have picked up that you're keen to implement and go back and revisit in your own business. Please share that on the chat. We'd love to see if we've been able to add any value to you guys today. And then I'm going to hand over to Shabani to take some questions.
Hi, Chantel. Hi, Catherine. So while I think people gather their thoughts and share any pointers they'd like us to know, we did have some questions that came in from the audience prior to this session, and I will just go into it. So I think most of them were covered during the discussion, but if there's anything else that you like to add, any examples you could share from clients you've worked with in the past, that would be very useful. So of course, everybody wants to know about that golden word conversion. So any specific tips you'd like to share about really converting leads faster? Anything that comes to your mind?
So I think the biggest value that I've seen recently with the clients that we're working with is actually creating real value added content. So, not just putting out content about what the business does, marketing, sales, but actually taking what they do and giving some kind of value. So in my own business, I read some statistics recently about, so just in September, how many people got handed over in the court process for being over indebted. So we have a debt guide. So I was like, okay, this is the great time to send out our debt guide because this is happening to real people right now. How can we help them get out of this situation? I think I did the post yesterday. I think about 25 people have downloaded the guide already, which is quite a high conversion rate considering it wasn't a paid for campaign. And I think that if you add real value to a customer's life and you can solve a problem for them and they start to trust you because you can solve that problem, you're going to convert them between the 5th and 10th interaction rather than the 12th and 20th interaction. Because you build that trust faster.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, to add to that, I mean, we're in the market of, let's call it, selling different things. And I'll say certainly from a SaaS tech space, and this has kind of been something that I've carried with me throughout my career, is that, you have to understand the problems in the industry that you're working in, right? And when I say the problems, not the problems that they had 10 years ago. These problems work in cycles. So you need to know what the problems are now, this current season, right? As well as the last season. And you have to be able to get into a position to see what's coming. Because when you're able to then take that information, and this is the key, I don't consider myself a salesperson. I have real conversations with people, right? And I want to be able to bring these seasonal challenges, and I want to understand, from the other person, or, sitting at the table with me, how they are prioritizing solving, these current problems. Is it even a priority for them? And then it's about, drawing from your experience and successes from other customers, demonstrating those results, and then looking at how you bring together a solution. But I will always say, if you don't know the industry, you don't have credibility, and if you can't have a real conversation, then that's something that you really need to work on.
And just to further add to that point, really understanding your customers, what it is that they need from you. And I find this a lot, is that people have that spray and pray or that blanket approach. I'm selling this product and it's for everybody. That product isn't for everybody. You need to understand why they need that product and where you're going to find them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from a marketing perspective, also for us, you also need to know, where your audience is. Just, from simple campaigns that we've sent out, we've realized that, let's say if you're marketing to higher education, LinkedIn may not be the channel for that. But if you're marketing to those in the BFSI space, at least from the context of India, everyone's buzzing around LinkedIn. So I think just knowing where your audience is very important. Now I see some messages appearing on the group chat. So Chantal, that's already one for you. I think Godfrey has quoted you, and he's very inspired by some of the insights that he's got from this session so far. Okay, now I'll move to the next question that came, and I'll just sort of summarize it. It was really about building good relationships. So can you all share any instance or any example of where you were able to really gradually build a great relationship with someone at any point?
So it's that consistent action, right? Especially if you haven't met them in person, if you're trying to build this relationship digitally. So, it's all about building trust. And I see this when people are trying to build their funnel. So it's like, hi, here's your welcome email. And on the second email, they're trying to sell you something. Okay. Yeah. And then they take you to a landing page and it's like, it was $9, but actually it's $99, and all of a sudden there is no relationship building. It's like, hey, how are you? Buy this from me. And if you want to build a relationship, it's like, okay, cool. So by the time we get to the 6th or 7th email, I'm going to slip a little deal in there. But it's really about building that trust in that relationship. How can I add value to you? How can I build that trust with you? And then, yes, by the time I want to sell you something, you're probably going to be ready to buy. in my experience. Chantal, I don't know what your thoughts are there.
No, I absolutely agree with you, and this is something that I, let me call it, aspire to improve on every day myself. But what I will say to you is that what I absolutely value, and what I drive from myself and in my team every day, there's number one, integrity. So you have to do what you say you're going to do, right? If you're not going to do it, it absolutely applies to real estate industry. Okay, sorry, I have spent many years working in the real estate industry, love the industry, so much potential, but integrity, do what you say you're going to do, and make sure you are on time. Now, this may sound, counterintuitive, but I always tell my sales team to slow things down. You don't just, have an intro email and then, okay, well, can you buy my product tomorrow? It doesn't work like that, right? So what you need to do is be able to make time for that real conversation. And you know what? When a prospect starts rushing me, give me pricing, I want to know what it is, I slow it down a bit, because I want the prospect to understand that I'm going to be transparent with them from day one. So what I'm trying to say is that they may start working with me today and they have 2 staff members, but they've got plans to scale their business. So what is it going to look like? What is my pricing, as an example, going to look like when they got 200 customers? I want them to know what the picture looks like today and what it's going to look like when they get to that end goal. And I want them to know how I'm going to be there. Now, this now supports communication, right? So be accessible, be available, obviously some boundaries in place, but also make sure, and I make this part of my daily routine, get to know they're also a person. It doesn't matter if they're in C-suite or whatever it is they do. They've got sports that they do. They're posting articles. Don't just send like something that's not sincere. If you've read the article and it resonates with you, use that and have a conversation. But if it doesn't, move on, because people will pick up straight away if you're not being sincere. But relationships take effort. For those of you who are married, you know how much hard work that is. So it's not any different. Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
And in real estate, sorry, Delmari, just to answer your question, one of the things in real estate is that you must remember, people are not buying houses, right? Like we're buying bread and milk or groceries once a month. I don't know what the stats are now, but 3 years ago, the cycle was, say, every 7 years, somebody would, buy a new house. Now, this is why in real estate, having a CRM that's got marketing automation is critical and an absolute must, because referrals are a big revenue stream in real estate. And you are so focused on doing the deals now, getting mandates now to earn commission, build relationships, right? And this is why you need an engine to keep nurturing, staying top of mind, so that the next time they want to buy or sell a house, or their kids want to do the same, or family members, that you top of mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So absolutely, it was a great comment that you made there, or question.
Okay. Delmari, we'll wait for you to come back. But I think, Catherine, I have this question for you. So for those people who may not be using a CRM, who are apprehensive about moving to a platform, moving to a tool, how easy or difficult was it for you when you were just setting up your process using a CRM?
So I use Lead Squared. So for me, it was like pretty simple. There was great support. And once the CRM was set up, there was a lot of training. So it was pretty easy. I find it in my marketing agency, working with other CRM systems, we have a lot of challenges. So for me, support is like hugely important. And I think that's something that everybody should be looking for.
Awesome. So it was basically a breeze.
For me, it was seamless. And also, the team that I had brought on were very junior. They hadn't ever worked with a CRM, and learning it was so simple for them. So I'm not a technical person. And even when I started, I was building my own mailers. I was importing my own database. I was building my own landing pages, because that's how simple it was. And for me, that was a game changer, because as a business owner, having to sit and figure this stuff out takes time. And I didn't have to do a lot of figuring out with Lead Squared. It's always my preferred platform. We do have to work with others, but I must tell you, the problems that we encounter with the others are always problematic, aren't easily solved. Where Lead Squared, we don't have that issue.
Yeah, and I think, Catherine, I don't know if you would remember this, but just a story to share with you guys. I think this was actually, I think it was a Sunday afternoon, and I was sitting with Catherine, teaching her how to build her own landing pages, and she wanted to send out an emailer. So we did everything on the Sunday afternoon in her CRM, scheduled it to go off on the Monday, and it is the excitement that Catherine had, I think on the Monday post the campaign going out, is that she had all these little red dots right next to
the
all
names.
The people's names. And she was like, but what is that, And these were all the people that were engaging, opening her email, clicking on, watching her videos, and filling in details on her landing page. So, I mean, from the time you've started, how much growth have you seen? How much bigger is your database today?
Well, if I can just give you just this year, I've scaled into 3 countries. I onboarded 19 new clients, and we closed 6 of the top schools in South Africa as our clients. And a lot of it has to do with our inbound marketing strategy and the fact that we have a CRM system.
Yeah, thanks for it, because that was going to be my next question, Kath. You've had an exceptional year. Expanded your business using this methodology that we're speaking to you about today into what countries?
Zambia, Mozambique, and Mauritius so far.
That's incredible. So your business, your licenses are growing in your business, and using the same methodology that we've spoken to you about today. I had no salespeople. I was selling a very, very low cost piece of software to a very niche market, only used marketing automation. In the space of 18 months, we had 6,000 paying subscribers.
Wow.
So, and they signed up by seeing my face somewhere on YouTube. I made the message super simple, had to test to get it right, but we know that's why we're saying to you, we're sharing these successes for you. So I think, just in closing, don't think your celebration is over. When you generate 100 leads and you close 5% of them, drink half the bottle of champagne, because there is a ton of value that most businesses miss out on. And that is what we want to help you harness. And that you cannot do manually. You cannot do at scale without the right CRM. So I think that's it. I think that's my key takeaways.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yes, Catherine, any closing lines from you?
Yeah, so for me, I think that the biggest stumbling block for a small business and getting involved in the CRM, in the beginning, it's very overwhelming, because now all of a sudden you have to create this content and build your templates and do all of the stuff and build your automations. And it's very, very overwhelming. So don't allow those first 3 months to overwhelm you. Push through, because the benefit after month 3 into month 6, when you actually start to close stuff, is absolutely worth those 3 months of that hard graft in the beginning. And I see a lot of people drop out in that setup phase. Don't give up. Just push through. You will win.
Yeah. So let yourself, be in a position to thank yourself at the end of 2024. And then Shibani, I just wanted to add, maybe if you want to share Catherine's details, but for those of you who do, have a head block when it comes to the marketing strategy and content stuff, please reach out to Catherine. If you guys want to, find out about how, to build the lead funnels and deal with the actual execution of the magical content, Catherine can help you with, or your own content. We're here to help. So please, Shibani will share our details, and we'll be happy to help you.
Well, thanks for having me today, guys. It's really nice to share some success stories in difficult times.
No, congratulations, Catherine.
Thank you.
And we hope you have a much better 2024.
Money Savvy Europe, here we come. Watch this space.
Excellent stuff. I was about to say there was so many great lines, so many great insights that were shared. So we're definitely gonna put them up around social media. Please keep a lookout for that. And I have shared Catherine's profile on the chat box. So anybody who wants to reach out to Catherine or Chantel, please feel free to reach out to me as well, and I will put you in touch. I hope the session has been useful for you. And yeah, looking forward to, I think, 2024. I hope you've had a fabulous year too. But it doesn't stop there. We have a long way to go. So all the very
Thanks,
best.
guys.
And thank you so much for a wonderful session, Catherine, Chantel. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.